first story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for leaving when my brother-in-law told my husband to get a DNA test right after my pregnancy announcement?" Situation is terrible. My joy is officially ruined by what happened. Me, 29 female, and my husband, 34 male, been wanting kids for over 3 years. We had issues we needed to deal with, and it was really difficult having to live with the frustration over and over again. I'm currently pregnant with our first child. I'm suffering from anemia, so it's high-risk pregnancy and I'm aware of it. But my husband and I never been this happy and excited. We waited a bit before telling the entire family. We planned on doing it during family dinner at my in-laws' house. But plans changed. My brother-in-law was there with my sister and 2 kids at my parents'. He's younger than my husband, and got married to my sister a bit young. He's always been negative and bitter towards us, always making hurtful comments about my failed pregnancy, and constantly threw the fact that he and his wife have kids in my face. Last night, we were gathered at the table, and right after we finished dinner, I announced my pregnancy to the whole family, and they all seemed happy and excited for us and started congratulating us. I noticed my brother-in-law was the only one who didn't get up from his seat, and was just staring like he received some bad news, God forbid. My brother-in-law suddenly started asking inappropriate questions when/how, and whether this was a real pregnancy and not some symptom of untreated condition. He thinks I'm sick judging by my look. He then proceeded to tell my husband to make sure to get a DNA test just in case. The whole room went quiet. My husband just stared at him awkwardly. We both did. Brother-in-law laughed it off, saying it was no big deal and wondered why everyone was confused. He said he did it with his kids, so no problem. I was absolutely livid. I felt humiliated. My joy got robbed and the announcement was ruined. My sister started apologizing, saying he is just being a jerk and didn't mean it. But I immediately left with my husband after being publicly humiliated and questioned. My mom called me later and said this is how he is, and that I shouldn't have left like that. But I felt offended at my own parents' house by my brother-in-law. She told me that I shouldn't ignore my sister's attempts to apologize, and wanted me to meet with them to discuss the issue and both parties apologize, but I wasn't willing to feel more stress than he already caused. Can you imagine waiting for years for this happy moment, then hear this type of comment by my brother-in-law? It's awful. He said it like it's the most casual thing in the world, and probably is making conditions to apologize for what he said. Both my husband and I are equally shocked and hurt by his comment. Now for the top comments. Jesus, not the a-hole at all. Your brother-in-law sounds horrendous, and your poor sister if he's insisted on DNA testing their kids too. Do not apologize for this. He was exceptionally rude and cruel, and you were more polite than I would have been. I mean, it almost could be spun as though he's blaming conception issues on his own husband, as well as suggesting unfaithfulness. Like a double whammy of stupidity and cruelness there. Not the a-hole. My mom called me later and said this is how he is and that I shouldn't have left like that. Leaving when someone says something like that is just how I am. And if she tries to say something contrary to that, talk over her, just how I am. Each time. Wanted me to meet with them to discuss the issue. I'm not the person who needs to have an issue sorted out. I am having nothing to do with him, until I have a reason to believe his issues have been addressed, and fixed. If you have a problem with us having no relationship, take it up with him. I am no longer speaking about this topic. Actually, the part that bothers me is, she told me that I shouldn't ignore my sister's attempts to apologize, and wanted me to meet with them to discuss the issue and both parties apologize. I don't think OP did anything wrong. She doesn't need to apologize, and she shouldn't. That said, I think the situation is, so long as her sister is married to this guy, her parents are going to keep hosting him at family events so as not to lose their daughter and grandchildren. Which is likely why they want OP to just ignore his poor behavior, as they do, since they're trying to be peacemaker, and have everyone be able to show up to family functions. They don't want having brother-in-law there to cost them OP and her family either, but they also know brother-in-law is the a-hole, and they can't really stop him from being the a-hole he is. That's why they need OP to be okay with it, since brother-in-law is unreasonable, and they know that if him being a gentleman is a condition of OP being over, they'll lose OP's family. But they don't want to lose sister's family either. Her parents absolutely could have handled it better, but assuming OP loves her sister despite her marrying an a-hole, and still wants to be at events with sister and parents, she needs to think about how she is going to handle things. Is she willing to just be rude to him back and deal with him being there? No? Then what happens? I don't have a real answer for her here. It sucks sister married this a-hole, and stays married to him. But I'm not sure isolating sister would help. He may not be that great to her either? I don't know. Not the a-hole. My sister started apologizing saying he is just being a jerk and didn't mean it. Didn't mean what? To say that you're unfaithful? My mom called me later and said this is how he is and that I shouldn't have left like that. Just because that's how he is doesn't actually mean you have to put up with it, and it infuriates me whenever someone uses that excuse. He's like that because people just tolerate his BS. You don't have to, especially when he just accused you of cheating on your husband in front of your entire family. You're right, I don't understand how is that somehow my fault. Yes, my family seem to be accepting of this behavior and enabling it, then blame me for how I react. My mom loves my sister and can't stand to see her upset, so that explains why the family is accepting of this. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son, too bad, about having to do a 30-day jail sentence? I have 4 sons, 2 with my ex. I've been divorced from her since my oldest, Cody, was 10. We co-parented well until he turned 14 and was starting high school. He and his mother wanted him to go to a local school, Venice High, whereas I wanted him to go to private school. The odd thing is that, my ex and I live in a very nice area, but the families often send their kids to private schools for high schools because they can afford it. Therefore, the local high school has a lot of empty seats, and brings in kids who couldn't behave in their own schools. The local school is basically ghetto. There wasn't much I could do since my son was 14, and my ex was assuring me he wouldn't fall into the wrong crowd and I was simply stereotyping. My son thought Venice would be easier and he could walk home from school. Lo and behold, by the time Cody turned 18, he dropped out of high school and became a pothead. His days were filled with hanging out with other potheads he met at school, and skating and trying to be cool. His mom said he was finding himself, had plans to learn a trade, get a GED, etc. This led to him and I becoming estranged. Things at his mom's started to get crazy, so my other son decided to live at my place full time. My son told me that Cody and his mom were messing with Crystal. It made sense in a lot of ways. There's not much you can do with a tweaker who doesn't want to get help. Earlier this year, Cody got busted for felony Crystal. I paid a lot of money for a lawyer and rehab, so he could have the felony brought down to a misdemeanor upon completion of rehab and probation, and would have his record erased. He did get a 1-month suspended sentence on the condition he didn't get any more felonies. He was about to finish his program and probation, but he got caught with felony Crystal again. This was after he visited his mother. So far, he's never spent a single night in jail. He was always cited, but he will have to do the 30 days since he has a new felony charge. Technically, I could hire a lawyer to bring the new charge down to a misdemeanor, so it won't count against him. A public defender could do the same, but not before his court date in 2 weeks where he has to surrender for his 30-day term. I just decided to let him go to jail, and I would be perfectly fine with it. My ex and Cody are begging me to help, and I am. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I went through a similar experience with one of my own children. 10 days in jail and 90 days in a state-mandated rehab program. That experience was what turned them around, and it's now been 3 years of sobriety and a whole new life. They have to sit at the bottom of the well for a while, before they're ready to start climbing out. And even then, they have to do the work. Don't send your kid to a spa rehab center. Send them somewhere that will make them do the hard work. Best of luck to you and to your son. This rehab can be really good sometimes, despite how it's sometimes portrayed. You're not the a-hole, but I'm side-eyeing you for calling the local public school ghetto. He's also blaming that school for his kid getting into substances. Couldn't have had anything to do with his mother taking crystals, of course. Must be the school. Not the a-hole. Clearly being supportive didn't work. Time for tough love. Once he's done, he needs to get away from wherever it is you live. It sounds like he needs change of community. ASAP. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my wife to send our son away for what he said to her? 2 weeks ago, my wife's parents passed away in a car accident. Her father was 65 and her mother was 63. My wife has been completely devastated since. She is an only child and was extremely close to her parents. They were wonderful people and I also grieve their loss. The issue of this post stems from our son. Our son is 15, and has been pretty unempathetic to his mother. He is fairly introverted and started pulling away from his grandparents and us at 13, and now spends most of his time playing video games. He didn't react much to the news of their death. I have tried talking to him about it a few times, but he has told me that he didn't feel that close to them. I still have to go to work while my wife is on bereavement leave. Our son is doing 100% online learning and is also at home all day. Since the accident, my wife and son have had several bad interactions. Examples: wife was crying in the bedroom, and son barges in and asks when dinner is. Wife asks him to make himself something, he rolls his eyes and walks away. Wife set up online Zoom funeral with her aunt and cousins, her only remaining family, and asks son to attend. He gets on the call from his room but was on his phone the entire time and didn't wear a shirt. Wife asks if son would like anything from his grandparents' house as a memory. He loudly replies nope, and walks away. The big incident came 2 days ago. I was at work when my wife called me sobbing. What happened is that, she was in the living room playing some old videos with her parents when son comes in. He asks to use the TV to play a video game, and she says to give her an hour. She then asks him to join her. His reply was, "Mom, I honestly don't give a crap. They were old and going to die anyways, can you just get over it already?" She sent him to his room and called me. I talked to him about it when I got home and made him apologize, but it clearly wasn't sincere. It upset my wife even more, and she asked to speak with me that night. She told me that she is having a hard time grieving with him constantly sharing the same space, and him being rude and dismissive of her. She proposed that he spend 2 weeks with my sister, since they have a similarly aged son he is good friends with. She wants the 2 weeks to go through everything from their house, deal with the legal stuff, and really process her grief. I do understand where she is coming from, but I shut her down. I told her that it is unfair to send him away, and that if she needs some time apart from him, she needs to be the one who goes. She argued that she needed my support through this, and if she goes, she has no one. I told her I loved her but our son comes first. She slept in the guest bedroom that night and hasn't spoken to me since. I feel horrible and I'm second-guessing my decision. Was I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Your wife lost both her parents, at the same time, and is suggesting the person disrespecting her grieving process go have a sleepover with a cousin. He is not exactly being punished here. She needs time to mourn, and your son is not only ignoring her needs, he is being very cavalier about the death, making it harder for your wife. At 15, surely he must understand that it's hard to lose a family member? What has happened in his upbringing that this part didn't go through? You say your son comes first. What I don't get is, how is this a competition? You're feeling a-okay son gets to go spend time with a cousin, or your wife gets to hear all about how her son doesn't give a crap about her parents or her? It's like comparing hitting your funny bone and having cardiac arrest. Sure, you can check out the damn elbow, but maybe the cardiac patient needs more help here. And by the war, I don't assume your son is okay. He is probably feeling very confused and has no clue how to handle it. You should probably get him some help. But from your title, I assumed your wife was insulted by his attitude and wanted him out permanently. This is nothing. Let the woman grieve. Seriously. I understand prioritizing a child in difficult situations, but this is a case of a minor inconvenience for the son, who can still do his online school anywhere and gets a fun bonus of hanging out with his cousin, versus your horribly devastated wife's situation, being made significantly more difficult with having to be out of her home, while trying to grieve and handle an estate. OP is a huge a-hole here if he can't see that. Send the kid to his cousins for 2 weeks, and put him in freaking therapy when he gets back. Even the most angsty of teens understand not to be a douche to someone who is grieving. You're the a-hole. Your son is being intentionally hurtful and disrespectful. This means your wife is not the problem. On top of that, she is the one experiencing the grief. Did her parents reject your son in any way? He isn't being just disrespectful but obviously hostile. Or mental. This 15-year-old kid is showing absolutely no empathy at all. It's kind of chilling, and definitely off-putting. You're the a-hole. First of all, your wife needs space from the kid. Second of all, why the hell is that kid not already in intensive therapy? He told his mom to get over their death because they were already old. And you see no major issue with that? Your son needs medication and therapy immediately. Edit. I apologized to my wife and called my sister. My son is going there for the 2 weeks, leaving tomorrow. I'd appreciate if you all stop calling him such horrible names based on this one post. I recognize that this behavior clearly isn't as normal as I thought it was. I was really similar as a kid, and just ended up getting over myself as an adult. I'm looking into some child physiologist for my son and some couples therapy for my wife and I. She hasn't forgiven me yet, but no, she isn't divorcing me. Thank you for your comments. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.